Okay, so let's get started. I call to order the resumption of the May 2020 meeting of the Morris Township Committee. I'd like to welcome everyone who's online with us remotely in the public, and all of us who are here from the Township Committee. Mr. Quinn and Mr. Daly are on site at Town Hall. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance,
I pledge allegiance
to the
to the flag
of the United States
of the United States
of America,
and to the
and to the
republic for
republic
which it stands,
for which it
one
stands,
nation,
stands
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
God.
with liberty
and justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Thank you.
As the school choir, we would not do a very good job, you
I
know.
know, but that's all right.
Yep.
Approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 15th meeting, regular and closed?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
And
you.
the May 6th minutes as well.
Oh,
Mayor.
I'm sorry. Yes, the May 6th special meeting as well. Do we need another motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. This is our third Township Committee meeting that we are conducting remotely. Obviously, we're in a time of unprecedented challenge and uncertainty, and the restrictions that are in place have created significant disruption to all of us, all aspects of our lives. I will say our community has really stepped up. There are countless examples of residents and staff being generous and helpful and encouraging to each other. You'll hear more about that later on, especially during the comments from the Township Committee. As we begin our meeting, I want to set a sort of frame for where we're at and where we're heading in the days ahead, with particular attention to Memorial Day and the upcoming meeting on the Abbey. From a sort of 30,000-foot view overview, general expectations per the governor's plan, there's three phases that we're expecting. Phase one is what we're in now. We're at the tail end of phase one right now, which is the strictest restrictions. While we flatten the curve, and we've done a good job of that, our numbers are going down. Phase one basically goes through approximately Memorial Day. Phase two goes approximately from Memorial Day to July 4th. We can expect to see some lifting of the restrictions. The exact details are yet to be determined. And then phase three, beyond July 4th, I think we can expect further lifting of the restrictions. Again, the details are to be determined specifically. So since we don't know, there's a lot that we don't know. There's a great deal of uncertainty. Planning is difficult. We do know that currently we're under a stay-at-home order, which extends through June 5th. Key points of that, we are still social distancing practices are required, and public gatherings are limited to no more than 10 people, which is part of why we're doing this meeting remotely. This will have an important effect on Memorial Day, which is this coming Monday. This is such an important occasion. As you know, it's a day when we honor the men and women who gave their lives in service to our country. And this year, because of the 10-person limit on public gatherings, our commemorative activities are going to be very different. We will not be able to gather at the municipal center or in the green as we usually do. We will not be able to have a parade. Instead, we're planning to do a small service of 10 people that will include members of the Township Committee, a couple of representatives from Veterans and Fire and Police. And we will do a video of this service and post it to our website. As far as the public meeting on the Abbey, This meeting was originally scheduled for April 29th. At our last Township Committee meeting, we postponed it until June 3rd. We've heard from many residents in the last few days, in particular, urging us to postpone this meeting until in-person attendance is possible. And I want to assure everyone who's contacted us, we agree with you. We hear you. We totally understand the importance of this project to our community, and we very much understand the importance of holding a public hearing on this project in person. Since in-person attendance will not be possible on June 5th, we will be taking action in just a couple of minutes here to postpone that meeting to a time when in-person attendance will be possible. I will say also, just in setting sort of reasonable expectations, it does seem likely to expect that a social distancing requirement is going to be part of our new normal for a long time to come, perhaps as long as it takes to get a vaccine. And if that is the case, this will have a significant impact on our ability to conduct public meetings in person. We are anticipating that a large number of people are going to want to attend the Abbey meeting, and I want people to know that we are actively planning right now for the possibility that a larger venue will be needed. We do estimate that maybe 50 to 60 people can meet in our town hall and practice proper social distancing. So we don't know for certain what the requirements will be in the future. That's, as I said, obviously yet to be determined. We don't know what the social distancing requirements will be. We don't know the number of people who are going to be allowed to attend public gatherings. And once we have a better handle on that, we will do our best to make sure that everyone who wants to is able to attend in person, and anyone who prefers to attend remotely is able to do that as well. So with that, I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda. Mr. Carlson, the recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor stated, it's proposed that Ordinance 07-20, this is the Abbey Olna Call redevelopment plan for Block 8409, Lot 1. The public hearing and final consideration currently scheduled for June 3rd. I believe it's proposed to be moved to July 24th, is it?
July 21st.
July 21st, thank you. So understanding that, I think we're looking for a motion to carry this ordinance to July 21st, 2020.
I would make that motion, Mr. Attorney.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion among the Township Committee members?
I would like to say something, Peter, here.
Yes.
I think under no circumstance would I ever vote for, or, well, I'd have to be part of it, but I do not think under any circumstance we should do a virtual meeting, irrespective of how long it's going to take, because I just think that the possibility for liability from the township, if we have 50, 60, or 100 people in this room at one juncture, I'm just switching around between having them here and the virtual meeting. But I think we disenfranchise all of our people by having a virtual meeting. So I would be very, very adamant in voting against that. Okay.
Okay. I am personally in favor of having both available, both in person for people who would like to attend in person, and also virtual for anyone who would prefer to not be there in person. And I believe that is manageable. We should be able to do that. Is there anyone else who has any comments?
Mayor, I agree that I think it's the right decision to postpone this meeting while we are postponing it till July, but to also have an emphasis on allowing it to happen when we are able to safely have a large group of people in one area. I think it's important to have both online capabilities and in person. And it's my hope that we can remain optimistic, but we also have to be realistic and understand that we may have to postpone it again if we're not able to host such a meeting in July.
Okay.
Great. I will say also sorry, go ahead, Mr. Graysall.
I would just add to that, I think everybody's experience with participating remotely, although it's not appropriate for the Abbey redevelopment, I think going forward we might see a new normal in that all of our meetings are both remote as well as live to increase community participation. So I don't think it just applies to the Abbey. I think going forward, it might be good practice for us to consider doing Zoom or some kind of form of virtual meeting for all of our meetings so we can increase the participation from the public.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think it's been a bit of one of the silver lining of this situation. The capacity to do remote access is very helpful for some people.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Jeff. I would support that.
Just while we're on this topic, I want to encourage anyone from the public who's very interested in the Abbey to be sure to sign up for the Municipal Messenger. That's a key source of information sharing from the township to the residents. So if you haven't done that already, I strongly encourage you to do that. Any other comments from Township Committee members? Okay, so we have a
Do we need a roll call
motion
from Mr. Mancuso?
we had the motion and we have a second. So my question is, do we need a roll call or is it just all in favor?
You need
It's
a
all
roll
in
call.
A roll call.
No, it's a
We
roll
need-
call.
Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grizel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so our special meeting on the Abbey is postponed until July 21st.
Mhm.
Next, we have public comment inquiry. And if there's anyone from the public who would like to ask any questions or make any comments, I believe there's at the bottom of your screen, you can hit the icon that says raise hand. Or Mr. Daly, is there some other way for people to signify that they want to make a comment?
And Mark, I also see you have some comments in the Q&A too.
So I'm seeing 3 people raise their hand. Mr. Daly, do I recognize these people or do you?
You should recognize them, man. Well, whatever's easiest.
Okay. Okay. How about first on my list is Janet Leeson. Janet, are you there? Oh. I am not able to unmute Janet.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Janet, I think you might be unmuted now. Are you there?
I
Janet
am here.
Leeson? Okay, Janet,
Whatever,
you're,
Could she state
you're
her
on.
address, please?
Yes.
You know what?
Could you
Would you
state her
please
address?
state your
State in the
name and address? We need to have your address.
Oh, 49 Crescent Drive in Morristown, New Jersey.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I actually hit the button by mistake. But while I'm on here, I'm just concerned because my property backs up to the Abbey. And I just want to say I love our community the way it is. And with the amount of traffic and condos coming in and the influx of everyone, I'm just so concerned. We're 2 generations in this house, and it's lost some of its magic, and I don't want it to be gone forever. I guess that's, and again, I hit the button by mistake, but I'm just doing a personal feeling about Convent Station.
Thank you. We appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
Well, it
Thank you,
comes
Janet.
from my heart, and my husband wants to say something. Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Oh, no, he doesn't. So it just comes from my
Well, if
heart.
he
and
changes his
like I
mind,
said,
welcome to welcome
mistake.
back.
Well, thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Janet. Next, I have H&S Ross. Is that Heidi? I am not able to
Hi there.
unmute
Yes, it is.
Heidi. Oh, there we are. Okay. Hi, Heidi. Go ahead.
Hi, Heidi.
You're on. You can share your
so,
questions or comments.
Hi there. I'm Heidi Ross. Hi, I'm Heidi Ross. I live at 6 Deegan Lane. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
We can.
I can hear you now. If you-
Oh, okay, good.
Yes,
Okay,
continue.
good. So is my question or comment just limited to the Abbey issue, or am I able
No.
to speak about other
You
issues?
can comment on other issues. This is open public comment.
Okay. Okay, so I'm pleased. Okay, good. I'm pleased that the Abbey issue is being postponed until July 21st. I think, giving yourselves ample time to, pan out this Zoom thing and encourage people to participate is, going to elevate your confidence that the Zoom participation could be more effective or whatever it's going to be, but letting some time go by, I think, is good, as well as encouraging a higher level of confidence in the community that you're taking the appropriate time needed to review all the issues that I'm sure are coming your way and will continue to come your way on this particular issue. I kind of looked back at the history of the the AIRN or whatever it is process, the
Area in need of redevelopment. Yeah.
Right. And then the subsequent redevelopment designation, and then the approval on a couple of other properties that went through that. And it was starting to feel like it was getting a little rushed, which could be a sentiment that's shared by others. So I'm glad that, perhaps due to COVID, everything is getting slowed down. I think that's in your favor, I think. And I'm personally happy about it. I guess one question I have is and I'm happy to correspond with any of you offline and don't want to get too wordy here and take up your time, but I'm just kind of wondering how the Crescent Drive curb and drainage program kind of came into play, because the timing for it seems ironically preparatory in lieu of runoff from the Abbey site. Although I'm sure the pervious coverage will be carefully calculated, I'm just kind of wondering why that neighborhood in particular was chosen, and was it in part due to anticipation of development of the Abbey property?
Mr. Quinn, do you have
I
any
also
comments on that? Or any knowledge of what caused Crescent Drive to be chosen for the curb and drainage improvements at that time?
Tim, can you hear Kathy?
Okay, it does not
Tim,
sound
can you
like
hear
Mr.
Kathy?
Quinn. Can you
Mayor?
hear me? Yes,
Mayor, if I could just weigh in for a second?
yes.
Curb and drainage is done all over town. We have numerous streets that get curb and drainage updates every year. It's part of a general services contract, and so Crescent Drive was not the only one. And I'm not sure if Heidi is referring to the corner of Madison Avenue that was repaired a few months ago, but that was a special project done for the homeowners on the corner who paid the township back for the work that was done. So that was on the corner of Crescent Drive, but in general, we do curb and drainage regularly every year on multiple streets.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Heidi, does that
Okay,
answer your
so
question?
can I? Yeah, I suppose. Mm-hmm. On other subject, I just want to make a special request for more, and I think I've emailed you guys on this, quicker and more efficient loading of minutes and agendas onto the website for those who can't participate. I think putting up draft minutes from the prior meeting for anybody who missed the meeting that would be interested would be good until they're approved. So, you know, people could go back and see what happened last month while they were away or whatever. And then once they're approved, a final version goes up, might be a good move. But the planning board minutes are kind of MIA at various times, which I don't think is a good thing at all. So I'm just asking you to note that as well. That's all I really want to bring up right now. But thank you for listening.
Thank you. On the minutes,
Thank you,
Can I
Heidi,
still be
for
heard?
coming
we
tonight. We
can't post
appreciate
the
it.
minutes until they're approved. Heidi, can you, hello?
I see.
Can
And
you guys
Mayor?
hear me?
Not even a draft version? Yeah, I can hear you.
I feel like I'm losing my connection here. Can you guys hear me? Heidi, you can hear me? On the minutes, we cannot post the minutes until
Yes,
they're
we can hear you,
approved.
I
Mayor.
can,
So,
yes.
for example, the minutes of our April meeting were just approved. And
I see. So you cannot post a draft. Is that
No,
correct?
I'll jump in here. It seems like we're having some technical difficulties. Correct. We can't post the draft. I don't know if anybody can hear me. We can't post the draft. And the other issue we have is that we need those minutes dictated, and dictation is now a fading skill in the workplace, unfortunately. And we have to figure out how to get meetings dictated faster.
Okay.
but okay, Heidi, I thank you for your comments, and keep up your good ideas. We'll keep in touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what? I have one more thing.
Okay.
on and off during the course of the meeting, if you kind of make sure that the audience knows that they're not able to speak unless they hit the raise hand thing.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kind of like an ongoing training
Yes.
for people who
Yeah.
are jumping on the call.
Right. Okay. Good point.
That's it.
Thank
So
you.
once I'm done, then am I in charge of hitting mute or you mute me?
I don't know. We're having a little, this is where I don't usually do the recognition of the audience members. So, Mr. Quinn, can you hear me now? No. All right. We're going to keep going here until we figure this out. Thank you, Heidi. Next on my list here, I have Remo Caputo. Mr. Caputo, can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear, yes. Are you Mr.
Okay,
Caputo?
Yes, Remo Caputo, 56 Canfield Road in Convent.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I appreciate the,
Mayor?
Yes.
Kathy, can you now hear me?
hello?
I hear a garbled something from someone. I'm not sure who.
That wasn't me, though.
I know.
That was
It
not me. Can you hear me now?
Mark Daly.
Can you hear Mark Daly or
There's
myself?
someone else speaking.
Mayor, can you hear me?
I can now hear Mr. Quinn.
Okay.
Hello?
All right, we're back on. Mr. Caputo,
There was
I
a
hear
garbled
Mr.
voice. I don't
Quinn.
know who it is.
Yeah, it's not that close.
Okay, hold
Okay,
on a
can you
minute.
hear me
Here,
okay?
Mr. Caputo, hold on one second.
All right.
Mr. Caputo, are you still there?
Yes, I am still here. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear
Hello?
you. Can you guys all
You can hear me?
Mr. Caputo? I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for hearing me.
try
Thank you.
going
Did
ahead.
you get my address, 56 Canfield Road, Convent? Okay.
Yes.
I thank you
Yes,
for
thank you.
postponing the meeting for July 21st. I would like to make the observation, not only to the council, the committee members, but to many of the people who are listening, that this process that you've undertaken of the redevelopment plan has started with a blighted area declaration or notice redevelopment, then goes to the council, then it goes to the planning board for determination of consistency, and then goes back to you for the second reading. None of that process, although it's public, requires any notice to any of the neighboring people in the neighborhood. So the result is that this whole development can go from beginning to the point where it gets to the planning board without having noticed the neighbors. And when it gets to the site plan, when it gets to the planning board, once this ordinance is approved, it is in stone. The access, the size of the parking spots, everything that is in that plan is in stone, and the planning board cannot undo any of it. So if we come to the planning board with all sorts of evidence that this is not a good idea, the planning board can say, too bad, you should have told that to the council, because this ordinance is, in essence, the approval of the site plan. The only thing that the planning board is going to be able to do is determine what color the building is going to be, or things of that nature. But the setbacks, the access to the property, all of the truly important issues will have been determined because they're in the plan. So it is really critical that, and all of that has happened without notice to the people who are most affected by it, namely the people within 200 feet and with the people in the community. So it is imperative that we have the ability to bring forth and understand all of the studies that have been done to get this passed as far as it is, and to be able to put input into it before it becomes an ordinance. Because once the ordinance is there, as I said, it's in stone. You can't do anything about it. I would ask, I'm not exactly sure who to ask, but I would like, we have people, concerned residents who would like to have input into this, and I would like to have it be a coherent type of presentation to the board so that we're not, a free-for-all. And I would like to know who it is that we should contact to try and arrange some kind of communications with the town.
Okay, you raised a number of issues here. First of all, on the notification, I assume what you're talking about there is a certified letter sent to people who live within 200 feet, right?
That's right. That is not required for any of this process so far.
Okay, that may be, but we have worked very hard to put information out to the public, informing the public. So it's very important to all of us that the public is informed and the public understands how the process works. So we've been, I would say, pretty diligent about sending information out to the public. That's where I said before that the municipal messenger, which is the township's email source, that's a very important communication source to sign on to. And so anyone who is not signed up for the municipal messenger, I strongly encourage you to do that immediately. And whether there is or is not an official 200-foot notice going to any given resident, people will know a great deal about the project by signing up for the municipal messenger. And
I have no.
did you receive, I sent a special report on the Abbey outlining the steps and the dates and everything. Did you happen to receive that yourself, Mr. Caputo?
No, I did not receive it, but I got it from a third party in Mendham a couple of weeks ago. And then when I started talking to the people in the neighborhood, no one knew about this project. But I have no doubt that you've made whatever efforts you make to try to communicate. However, the process of this process sidesteps the Municipal Land Use Act, and it puts it in a situation where no notice to the adjoining neighbors is required. So you get to totally bypass that until the point when it's too late, which is when you go to the site plan and it's already a fait accompli. You can't do anything with it. So, and I'm not criticizing.
No, I agree with you. It's very important for the public to be informed and to know what's going on. So again, the municipal messenger, please sign up for that. And I'm happy to send the, to anyone who did not receive the previous communications that we sent via municipal messenger, I'm happy to resend that to anyone who would be interested.
What we would like to do is be able to meet with some appropriate municipal officials to, once we've gotten all our concerns, in a coherent fashion, so that you don't have 85 people, worried about what color the grass is going to be. But what we want to do is we want to meet with professionals, tell them what our concerns are, and see if it can be incorporated. I don't think too many people that I have spoken to on this application are looking to torpedo the whole thing. We like the Abbey, we'd like it to stay, we'd like it to be, still there, but the size and scope of this application, not only do we not understand it because there is not enough information out, other than, I've read the redevelopment plan, but we don't know the background, we don't know what the traffic studies show, we don't know a lot. We don't know what the reports were. These are all things that we would have to look at to be able to understand what's going to happen there. We don't know. This is something. This is an application that would have been more, in my opinion, more appropriate as a use variance, where they could have gone in. They have special reasons because they want to save the Abbey. But what would have happened is that it would have been there would have been reports. There would have been people from the public who would have gotten their notices, and everyone came in. But I can promise you this: I can't tell you how many people I spoke to in the neighborhood who did not know this project even existed, and that is very disturbing when you have a project of this size. That is why it's so important that we be able to meet with municipal officials and also be able to come and talk at a in person at a council meeting and get the individuals to be able to present their concerns with some kind of efficacy. In other words, some kind of evidence. We are retaining a professional planner who is going to review this for us. And we would like not to, like I said, we don't want to destroy the project, but we'd like to make it work for the applicant, and we'd like it to work for the residents. If we can do that, that would be a wonderful thing. Like I said, we don't want to lose the Abbey. We just want to not lose our neighborhood either.
Understood. Let me just ask.
So if you could give me some guidance as to who I may contact, that would be helpful.
Could you repeat that last sentence? I didn't hear it.
If you could give me some guidance as to who I might contact or our group can contact to try to move this forward, that would be helpful. You can have Tim Quinn call me if you like, or whoever.
Okay, let me just I want to clarify one thing with you. I totally understand the things that you're talking about. Can you just share with me your thoughts about I mean, the things that you're saying are things that are typically handled at the public meeting, and you're asking for a meeting prior to the public hearing. So can you just comment a little bit about why it's so important to you to meet before the public hearing?
Because given the scope of this application, sitting at a public meeting and trying to get to convey information back and forth is at best poor. To be able to meet with the applicant and possibly with the professionals from the town and come up with a compromise of what can be done at this site will make the whole project more efficient and get everybody to participate. Otherwise, you are going to show up at a council meeting and it's going to be a free-for-all, and it's going to take 10 meetings to get through. Not an efficient way of doing it.
Okay.
Like I said, this is an application that should have been a use verification, and no one had time. We would have been able to do it that way. So, like I said, I'm suggesting this because we don't want to torpedo the project. We'd like to get it to be modified such to a point where the neighbors can live with it and the applicant can live with it.
Okay, understood.
So if someone, if there's someone
what
I can
would
talk
like
to
do is I'd like to check back at my end with our attorney, with Mr. Quinn, with the other, and someone will get back to you. I'm not exactly sure.
Thank you very much. I
who it will be.
appreciate that.
Someone will.
I appreciate that very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for calling in, and thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Mayor, could I add a suggestion?
Sure.
I think out of good faith to our residents, since there is no proper 200-foot notice that's required, I think the township should just mail a 200-foot letter to all the residents to just ensure that everybody's informed of the meeting date and the fact that they can find the documents online. I think that's a nice good faith effort on behalf of the township to ensure that every single resident is informed. And we could choose to even expand that 200 feet to a little bit further to ensure that the general community is informed. So we'll consider that too.
We did send out the
Mr.
200-foot
Quinn?
We did send out the 200-foot notices.
Okay.
It looks like Peter's trying to say something, but it might be muted.
I don't see Peter. Oh, there you are.
I'm on the screen, but can you hear me? Should I press
Now
share
we can.
screen?
I can hear you now, Peter.
All right. Just for Mr. Caputo, I just wanted to mention that I have received over 20 notices from people in your neighborhood asking for the meeting to be postponed. So, had a pretty, I'm not questioning your judgment. I just think that we'll try to figure out to maybe send notices out even farther away than 200 feet. I've got to check with Mr. Carlson to see if that's proper. But I have been inundated with requests, etc. So it's not like people didn't know what's been going on. There's no question about that. And then I think we have to check with our lawyers and check with Mr. Quinn and check with the experts on this as to whether or not it's proper to have a pre-meeting meeting. So we'll get into it and then get back to you,
We will
sir,
check
okay?
on that. Right, we will check on that, and someone will get back to Mr. Caputo.
Next one.
Okay. Next is Jim Digler.
It take a moment. It takes a moment for that to come on. Come on.
Hi,
There you
Mayor. It's Jim Dingler. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful.
Please state your address. We need your address.
Sure. My name is Jim Dingler, and I live on 47 Crescent Drive in Convent Station.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to start by thanking you and the council for moving forward with postponing the next meeting. And also the theme that it's super important that we have an in-person ability at that meeting to promote the citizen participation.
We agree.
Totally agree.
So we're on the same page there. I'm
Yeah.
I'm very happy about that. I do think that pushing it back to July the 21st, I don't know, seems a little arbitrary unless the whole intent was just to flip it to the next available date. I mean, this will have to unfold over the next 30 days, maybe, for a length of time not yet known, but I think we could well find ourselves not being able to have that public participation in the July timeframe as well.
The July 21st date was selected in part because we had to make sure that all of our professionals and township committee members and everybody could be there. That's, essential. And so though that was the reason for selecting that date. And there are a lot of unknowns here. We don't know what the situation is going to be in July. So we do feel that giving ourselves that much time between now and then, everyone knows, there's time to prepare, there's time to read the report, there's time for residents to talk with each other and clarify what their questions and concerns are. And there's also time, I'm really hoping we don't have to change it again, but there's so many uncertainties that, if we do have to change it, we will. So that's where we're at.
Madam Mayor, I'm not
Okay, thanks-
trying to be
thanks.
funny.
Who's that?
John Arvanites, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not
Yes.
trying to be funny here, but I think we're going to be lucky if we can get a meeting such as that done by July of 2021, unfortunately. And again, I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too, John, but thanks for that acknowledgement, Mayor. And, we'll, like life in so many areas is these days, we'll have to see how it goes for a while. I do want to say that, the residents want to make the most of the time, whatever time period that might be, before we are able to schedule the meeting and have the next meeting to discuss the redevelopment plan. We very much want to use that time in an efficient way. And I agree with the comments from Mr. Caputo a few moments ago that it would be good if we could organize an approach so that we could consolidate concerns and considerations from the citizens. I know I have some concerns, but I've heard other concerns that are different from mine, and so we need to make this an efficient process. I don't think we want to have a brawl over this in the next meeting, and we don't want to overwhelm the ability to absorb the information. So I think as much work as we can do in concert with the committee's professionals would be helpful. I think I would also reference a note that was sent out to the Township Committee on May 18th at 8:40 by Mr. Caputo. I thought that that note really gave a pretty decent abbreviated view of a pathway to proceed from here and use the time efficiently. It was, the name of the note was a request postponement of the Abbey redevelopment plan hearing date. And so, I'm hopeful. I'm hearing the other sentiment that I agree with from others speaking up that this is a huge development. Other than the Honeywell development, I can't remember in the last 25 years a larger real estate development issue to be considered, and certainly it's literally in my backyard. So I'm laser focused on it right now, and looking forward to working through the issues and trying to come to some conclusions that will hopefully benefit everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. It's helpful to us to hear your suggestions. So we hear you, and thank you for taking the time to share them.
Thank you.
Let's see. Anne
Kostiak.
is Anne Kostiak there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys hear Anne?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Anne. If you could say your address, please.
For Ann Kostiak, 6 Crescent Drive.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, I'm on the other end of where Jim Dingler is, and we have spoken. And as far as Kathy, you did send out the attachments back in March, but that was only going to people, as you had mentioned, who were signed up for the Township newsletter. So that part of communication is tough. We have a neighborhood email chain, and that's how we forwarded out. That's how most of the rest of the neighbors found out. As far as Peter Mancuso being flooded or anyone receiving letters from us, I'm glad to hear it because we did ask the neighbors to reach out. And I imagine most of those emails are only in the past maybe 5 days. We do not want to halt the Abbey project redevelopment. We'd like to see the building stay. It's my understanding that the building is not on the historic register. So if the builder wanted to do so, he could really actually rip it down and build some kind of condos or apartments or whatever, he could apply for that. So as Jim had said and Remo had pointed out, we would just like to be part of a conversation or to know that, there would be modifications. From what I can read on these plans, and Jeff Grazel had asked me, why did I need to be in person to see plans in person? and asked if I had received them. It's the whole point of being there. When we had the issue or the application for the Madison Hotel, to be able to ask a specific question and point right to it versus just even the first 30 minutes of this webcast, the technical difficulties were unbelievable. Not only for you guys, but for everybody listening or waiting to speak. So, you know, it's important for the public to attend. And Jeff Brazel had responded to an email saying that, you know, we may all have to now deal with the new normal of social distancing or limited capacity in a hearing. I think, you know, this isn't just asking for a portico on the front of your house or a variance for a deck or a shed. This is major to our neighborhood. The traffic pattern, GPSs will be bringing people through here in and out of our neighborhood from Woodland to Punch Bowl. I can almost guarantee you that the townhouses on the corner of Punch Bowl and Old Turnpike have not a clue that that medical building parking lot is going to be used for valet parking on the weekends. So the lights and the noise in that parking lot, even if it's just valet attendants, is not there right now. You know, Jim does back up to it, so do the Leesons, so do the McGinleys. And again, we're not looking to halt it. We would just like to have a conversation possibly as the builder or the owner has had with the different departments in the township. You know, maybe we could arrange that on our own with them and hire a professional ourselves. But this really is, you know, it's really important, and it's not just something that you know, to do virtually like this, it shouldn't be allowed. I do appreciate the fact that you all voted, or the majority voted, to move it to July. I'm not quite sure, knowing the uncertainty, as everyone has said, that you couldn't have voted to move it to September, because as I pointed out in my email, July, if you move it to July, you will have people then away on vacation and traveling who will not come back for this meeting, and people who still will not be comfortable if you're able to hold it inside. So again, I do thank you for moving it to July. It gives us a chance to kind of group, but I don't know how to get the point across. I don't think there's great communication, and now under this isolation or social distancing, it's not easy for anyone. I can see the courtroom. I see Mr. Quinn and the other gentleman who's sitting at the desk and to the left. But to be there, there is nothing more important than to be there. And I do think our presence for the Madison Hotel made a huge difference. So, you know, whether you hold it to right before the elections or right after the elections, maybe that, I don't know. But I do appreciate everything that you've done. But keep in mind what the first 30 minutes of this was. I don't know how many people have logged on to be a part of this or to hear this. And maybe not everyone's having issues. But you dropped off several times in the very beginning. I didn't catch all of Remo. And I was tuned in early. So anyway, thank you very much for your time. And also maybe as the Board of Adjustment uses a stenographer, maybe for the minutes for the township meetings could be the same thing. There are still court stenographers out there. Maybe some of them have been furloughed and would be willing to work or be hired for each of the meetings. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Ann.
much, Dan.
You
Thank
got a
you.
lot of suggestions in there. I just want you to know the communication piece is very important to us. We hear you, and we're going to do our best to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. And your point about being part of a conversation and being able to suggest, you know, make your suggestions, I hear you on that. And we'll do our best to work out some way. This is part of what we'll be getting back to Mr. Caputo on. And one other thing, as far as just in reference to your comment about possibly moving it to the fall, there are so many uncertainties here. You know, my honest opinion is that I think we have a better chance of being able to hold an in-person meeting in July as compared to September. We'll see. It's a pure personal prediction, but you know, it is what it is for right now. We've got July on the calendar, and know that we get how important it is for people to be there in person. And as we've said, we're going to supplement with remote too. And hopefully by then, some of these technical difficulties that we've experienced will be cleared up. So thank you, Anne, for participating. And I have one other person. Is this Jim O'Reilly?
It's gonna take a moment.
Now can you hear me?
There he
I
is.
can hear you.
There was that thing there I had to unmute. A number of people would probably prefer me muted. In any case, any additional meetings there might be to explain the project, and I understand the necessity of the people in the neighborhood, since I live in Liberty Greens, to understand these things that are going on. Any additional meetings, though, would be public meetings, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be private meetings to consult with certain groups. Is that true?
There's a variety of things that could happen. So the main public meeting coming up will be the public meeting. What some residents here tonight are asking for is the opportunity for their professionals to talk with our professionals prior to the public hearing. And we are checking on that to see. I can't say right now whether that's possible or not. We're going to check on that and get back to Mr. Caputo.
Would that be open to any members of the public who expressed an interest?
I guess that is to be determined. Probably not.
You're going off the sound.
We are, Jim, so you know, we are thinking about putting together a frequently asked questions doc. So that if we do that, that will be shared on our website and perhaps on the messenger as well.
Thank you. I appreciate your efforts to reach out to the public.
Now it's very important. We want to do everything we can to make sure that people have the information they need and understand what's going on.
Now I will mute myself to everyone's relief.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, Heidi, are you coming back for a second, or is that a mistake on the hand here?
I would like to come back.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it's great that everybody's calling in. To Remo Caputo's point about it being more appropriate if this was in a use variance situation, I totally agree with that. I don't really understand how this property got into the redevelopment situation. I mean, I understand that New York City Skyline Realty could be thrilled to death. But why somebody who owns a piece of property for, at this point, 12 years has done zero to improve the property when, you know, it was his responsibility to do so? How the thing got it to redevelopment status in the first place is kind of mystifying, and it could be in part due to my ignorance of the process.
There is a set of legal criteria that have to be met in order to qualify as an area in need of redevelopment, and this property was studied by our professional planner.
Yes, I read the, whatever it's called, the INHR, whatever that the first approval.
Yes.
But I also noticed in that document that there was a lot of weight put on a marketing report by a marketing company that was hired by the owner. And another professional, I forget what the other component was, that was also supplied by the owner, which is kind of like it appears that the owner, New York City Skyline Realty, Tom Maioli is the owner of that company, presented this notion to the township with his backup, and then our planner went, oh, okay, that looks good, we'll give it a go. I'm not sure that that's how it works, but that's how that report reads. Now, again, I don't know that much, but I'm kind of wondering, is there a way that the redevelopment status can be reversed in order to move this property, which again, I have to stress, was owned by a company that has one single owner, that did nothing to the property, that was then approved for redevelopment. And now we're kind of in this boat, and nobody's really questioning like how it got started or why, or how it was initiated or how it was approved, or was that all right? And I noticed in going back and looking at the history of other redevelopment properties that when the report is received, that it was noted on other properties, it was noted in the minutes that such a report was received. And I didn't notice anywhere along the line, and I didn't scour over everything, but that there was no acknowledgement of receipt of the report itself.
Right. The report came in.
So, I mean, I don't know if the
2018,
process,
I believe.
you know, I don't know if the process is really that ironed out, you know, in terms of when things happen and what kind of time frames there need to be and what kind of gaps of time frames. But, you know, I know that Tom Maioli and Restoration Hardware are big entities that have a lot of power behind them. And, you know, it seems like as beautiful as a building as the Abbey may be to some people's point of view, in an effort to save that building, we are getting something that we're going to have to look at and live with as a commercial entity for years and years to come. I don't know whether everybody's really on board with the impact of that. I also don't know, and I'm not expecting you to answer these
Heidi,
questions.
there's one thing here. We're not discussing the content today,
right, and
okay?
I'm not expecting a response, really.
Yeah, you're making a point about the redevelopment plan, and we hear you.
I mean, I understand Remo's sentiment that nobody's looking to derail the thing, but I'm not sure that that's entirely widespread across the population.
Yeah, okay.
And that could be in part due to the fact that these plans can't be seen. I mean, I would like to request that a model actually be created, and the onus of such should be put on New York City Skyline Realty or RH, whoever it would be, you know, so that people can see what this thing is going to look like on the developed 4-acre lot, and what, you know, how massive it's going to be in terms of occupying the lot with all the parking and
there are
whatever.
graphics in the plan.
Yeah, they're totally lame, to my way of thinking. And the whole remote parking thing with valet drivers dashing to and fro across Route 24 is a whole nother ridiculous idea. I don't know who owns that property and whether, you know, there's some kind of connection between the ownership of that piece of property and this piece of property. But, you know, there's just a lot of unanswered questions.
I got it. Heidi,
Yeah.
we do need to move on. I appreciate you sharing your views, and I
Mhm.
encourage you to keep on top of it. And so, but we do have to move
my
on.
one question to the, okay, one question I do have for you, Mayor, and the committee as a whole is there any way to reverse this process and go back to use variance status? Or is that boat is sailed?
That boat has sailed. As far as I mean, I'm not the lawyer, but from everything I know, I don't see that process being reversed.
Can you
Okay, we
double
need to
check
move
with the
on
lawyer?
here.
Of course.
Mr. Carlson, or do you want to weigh in on that?
Just briefly, I mean, they're always free to go the use variance route, but the designation, there's a lot of other things that go as being a area in need of redevelopment, that perhaps they don't, it might not work. The project might not work if they were to go that route, so that's why we'll have a public hearing on it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Heidi. And
I have one last request, Mayor. I'm very sorry.
this is that we really do need to move on here. So
great.
last question.
My last question is, I'm hoping that the Township Committee will consider not voting on the evening that the public hearing is being heard. Because I think that in order to digest all the input that you're going to hear, you should give yourselves ample time to vote subsequent to that meeting.
Yes, I agree with you.
I agree.
On that.
Reasonable request. Thank you, Heidi.
Yep, very reasonable. I think there's a lot of agreement on that.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Anne, one more comment here. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay,
Please keep your comments to under 5 minutes.
Oh, it's less than that. Okay. First of all, one of the gentlemen had said that maybe July 20, 2020 would be before an open forum could be held. So I don't really, honestly, I find it that important. I don't have a problem with it waiting that long. Probably wouldn't happen. But if you need to postpone again because a safe public meeting can't be held, when would that decision be made? So like if you've decided in July that we can't have a safe, social distancing open forum for the entire area or whoever wants to attend, when would you make the decision to postpone again?
I can't give you an exact date, but what I can tell you is that it's very important to me and to all of us for the public to know a sufficient amount ahead of time that people can plan to attend and participate. So
would that be at the June the early July meeting with just the township? I mean,
part of that has to do with what's going on at the time. We know that people need advance notice. We get that. So, what we can't predict is what the existing conditions are going to be at the time. But we will do everything we can to give as much advance notice as possible.
Okay, and just one other thing. I don't know how we go about it, but the property looks like hell. Today, especially all the week, but there has been junk and statues and crates and garbage tossed in the back part of the lot. And the home that is now, I guess, owned by the same gentleman and is has been just left unkept, or no one can live there. I think it's been in pretty bad shape. That's the one on Canfield Road, the cul-de-sac. Is there any way that they could be sent a letter to please come and clean up their, because even if they get, everything moves forward, the neighbors can see that. It's really just, it's unkept, and it's just, there's garbage all over. And crates of statues, marble statues, broken open and just there.
Mr. Quinn, do you have any comment on that?
No, but I'll have our health department maintenance officer take a look at it.
Okay.
And we'll get something out if there's a violation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening yourself as well. Mr. Caputo, 5 minutes, please?
Won't even take that long. Just 2
Okay.
points. One is with regard to Mr. O'Reilly and Heidi Ross, if they want to, particularly Mr. O'Reilly, who wanted to participate in anything prior to the next meeting, if he can contact me or Ann Kostiak, we'd be happy to include him in whatever we're doing. With regard to Heidi Ross, the same thing goes. So I think that she already is involved with Ann Kostiak. And to the question that Ms. Ross asked about undoing the redevelopment plan, technically, if the redevelopment plan and ordinance is voted down, it goes back to the drawing board and they start all over again. And that would be the same as if it was starting. Well, like I said, it would start all over again. Other than that, I'm good to go.
Okay.
If Mr. O'Reilly can contact me or Ann Kostiak, that would be good.
Thanks,
Very
Mr.
good.
Caputo. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, is there anyone? I have no one else from the public at my end. I'm not sure at Town Hall.
Yeah, Mayor, could I
Go ahead, Mr.
make a
Grayson.
comment? Thank you. I just want to assure the public that the Township Committee really has the best interests of our residents at hand. We, with all due respect to the Board of Adjustment, where a use variance would go, they would look at the project on its merits and its merits alone. Having it go through the Township Committee, we can take a broader view of the effects on the municipality and the benefits and detriments that it might bring along with it. But I can assure you that every single member on the Township Committee is cognizant of keeping the quality of life in our town the way it has been, and for the reasons that we all moved here. We don't want to change the quality of life in our town, but keeping the Abbey, I think, is part of what makes Madison Avenue beautiful. It's a beautiful old building, and I personally would like to see it remain as part of our landscape. So again, we will have the best interests of our residents at hand when we take this up, and I just want everybody to be assured of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grayson. Is there anyone else from the Township Committee who'd like to say anything before we move on? Okay, with that, thank you. We will close the public comment section and move on to ordinances for public hearing and final consideration. So first
Mayor.
one, this will go to Mr. Carlson.
Oh, no. Sorry, you can read them.
So ordinance 08-20. Okay, you want me to read it?
I think probably best if I do. I think that the Township Attorney normally does. The first is ordinance 08-20, prohibiting automotive service stations with convenience store. Consideration to continue public hearing to the May 20th meeting.
Okay, so what we did there was
That should have been out.
Yes, we extended the vote. This is the second read of this ordinance, and it adds an additional conditional use for gas station and automobile vehicle stores. And so tonight is our public hearing and final vote on this ordinance. So before we vote, there is an opportunity for a public comment on this particular ordinance. Is there?
Mayor, we have to move it and second it first. So
I'm sorry. That's right. Go ahead.
I'll move the ordinance.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, now we go to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this ordinance?
One person here. One person.
Okay. Kashmir, can you hear me?
Yeah. You should. He's up. There he goes.
Can you hear me?
Kashmir?
Mayor Wilson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. If you could say your address, please.
So I don't live in Morristown, but I have a business there, 192-196 Madison Avenue in Morris Township, also known as Convent Station. I have a property and I got a certified letter regarding this change in ordinance about not allowing convenience store with the gas station.
Yes, now this is for future applications. If you already own a gas station, the language in this ordinance, for example, prohibiting the retail sales of anything other than automotive products, you are grandfathered in. Which gas station are you on Madison Avenue?
So I own the property there where there is a Shell gas station and a Lukoil station and
Yes.
a friendly restaurant. I own that whole lot there.
Ah,
All
okay.
three of them. And because one of my tenants' lease is over, the Shell, and I might come to the township and seek an approval to put a gas station with a convenience store.
Okay, so you're saying that a future application for a gas station with a convenience store is what you're talking about?
Mayor, there's existing gas station with a repair shop, and the repair shop business is really dying down because everybody's basically driving leased cars. So that's why you're saying this, Wawas and Quick Checks putting convenience stores with their gas stations. And as a single station owner, that's the only way for my survival. And, my leases are over. I inherited these leases when I bought this property. And the lease for the Shell is over. We are on month to month. And the Lukoil lease is going to be over too in a few years. But I wanted to come to the township, maybe taking it down 2 stations and just put 1 station with convenience store and automotive facility, repair facility. So would I be grandfathered in that, or I have to go through the variances?
I will defer there to Mr. Carlson.
If this is adopted tonight, then you would need to go for a variance at the Board of Adjustment.
So, with all due respect, honorable board members and Mayor Wilson, what was the reason for banning food store with the gas station? Because that's what the future is, right? You look at Royal Farms, Wawa, Quick Checks. So the mom and pop store, although I'm not a resident of Morristown, but I have a very special connection with Morristown because all 3 of our kids were born in Morristown Hospital. In fact, we have half a dozen kids who were born in Morristown. So I really would like to understand the reason behind this when every township is seeking to get Wawa, Quick Check, and other major players. Why are we banning food stores with the gas stations?
Mayor, I think Tim Quinn wants to speak.
Yes.
Raise his hand.
Mr. Quinn, can you hear me?
Clarify it. There's an ambiguity to the ordinance. It was just to make it more clear. As you recall, we had previously one of these, and it would have to go to the Board of Adjustment for an interpretation hearing. So he would have to go to the Board of Adjustment regardless. This just takes that ambiguity out of it, and that anybody coming in would have to go for that rather than the planning board hearing. Or just to make the ordinance more clear, it doesn't change what his responsibilities would be. If he wanted to do what he wanted to do, he'd still have to go to the Board of Adjustment regardless.
So I respect your answer, Mr. Quinn. But what I have heard, and please forgive me for my ignorance, what I have heard is that majority of the applications that went in front of the Board of Adjustments were denied as far as the convenience store is concerned with the gas stations. Am I correct, or am I not correct in that?
Not in Morris Township, sir.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Mr. Quinn.
I don't believe any in Morris Township.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
I am not aware of any in Morris Township that were denied by the Board of Adjustment for a gas station convenience store.
Oh, okay. So basically, what the township is trying to do is bring a clarity to an existing law where if I need a convenience store, I have to go in front of the Board of Adjustment. Am I right?
Yes,
That is correct.
that's
But
it.
there is, yeah, so there's nothing like that, where I can go in front of the Board of Adjustments and I still, can get denied. It's just that I just have to go to Board of Adjustments. That's the clarity I needed. That's all.
Yes.
We're trying to do that in either case.
And by the way, Mayor Wilson, your communication was, because I was listening to the Abbey project, I got this communication via certified mail. That was the only way I came to know about this meeting, and I really admire your administration for communicating all the meetings with general public. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I'm glad you got the letter. Sending it to people like you who own gas stations already was a reason why we postponed the hearing on this ordinance until this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Thank you, Honorable Board. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, Heidi?
Mm-hmm. So my question is,
I can't hear you. Please state your name. Are you there?
My name is Heidi Ross. I live at 6 Deegan Lane.
Okay, you have a comment on the ordinance?
I do. So is part of this ordinance obviously relates to the commercial areas of the town where such a business would exist. I noticed in the master plan that there are 3 designated commercial zones: Hanover, Ridgedale, and Speedwell.
Speedwell.
Right. So, again, is the ordinance specifically over concern about that particular, was it decided that this ordinance would also address the commercialness, let's call it, of Madison Avenue / Route 24, since it's not designated as one of the 3 corridors or whatever it's referred to in the master plan?
This ordinance is actually adding a 4th conditional use to any place where automotive service stations and vehicle repair shops are allowed. And it's clarifying part of this, as Mr. Quinn said, came at the request of the Board of Adjustment for some clarity because there were questions and ambiguities in our existing language, and this clarifies it. And so applicants who wish to bring forth a gas station and a convenience store have to go before the Board of Adjustment for a variance.
Mm-hmm. So the 3 corridors that are mentioned in the master plan, why isn't Route 24 Madison Avenue included as a corridor?
I'm not sure what you're talking about in the master plan. I'm not sure of that reference, but I do know that this ordinance applies specifically to Chapter 9537 of our municipal code, which is, it's on Chapter 95 zoning. So it's basically like adding a 4th bullet point to conditional uses under automotive service stations and vehicle repair shops. So
okay,
that's where this ordinance is sort of fits in our township documents.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else from the public who would like to comment. Is there anyone from the town who has any comments? Okay, seeing none. I will ask Madam Clerk if we could take a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Wilson. Mr. Arvanites.
Yes.
Mr. Jurfy.
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso.
Yes.
Mr. Grizel.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, we
I
have.
think we have to read the
Mayor.
read the statement.
Read the statement, Kathy.
I'm sorry, I forgot. Let me get it. Okay. I, Catherine J. Wilson, Mayor, declare this ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Okay, thank you. Next.
Moving on, we have ordinance 09-20, bond ordinance providing for swimming pool improvements by the Township of Morris, appropriating $122,500 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $116,375 in bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Okay,
I'll offer the ordinance.
thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment?
No.
Seeing none, is there anyone from the Township Committee who would like to offer any comments? Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you. Mayor, Mr. Arvanites.
Yes.
Mr. Jurfy.
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso.
Yes.
Mr. Grizel.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. I, Catherine J. Wilson, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct the clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Thank you. Next ordinance, please, Mr. Carlson.
Ordinance 10-20, this is an ordinance appropriating $130,000 available in the Parking Utility Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various capital improvements at the Convent train station by the Township of Morris.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second? Is there
Second.
anyone from, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this ordinance?
No.
Seeing none. Oh, I do have one person. Diane Holland. Can you hear me?
Diane Holland, 26 Northridge Place. Are we in a situation now where perhaps we should not be spending these funds? What with the potential for loss of tax revenue?
Mr. Quinn, do you want to comment on that?
This is a utility that's sponsored by you, that's paid for by user fees. We're not going out to bond. This is money that we've put away over the years to do these improvements, to keep the parking lot area in good condition and to make the improvements to the station itself that is there. So the money is already on hand and we have it. And it's all done by user fees and not taxpayer dollars.
However, we may lose user fees going into the future.
No.
Maybe, but we have we'll be prepared for that if we need to.
Yeah, and I'd like to comment too. And Diane, I mean, the user fees, are paying for the parking lot at Convent Station. These upgrades are in some parts mandatory, necessary, since it's drainage issues in the parking lot. Quite honestly, while ridership is down, now is the time to get some of this work done so we're not creating a problem for commuters in the morning for their morning and afternoon commutes. I think it's the right time to make these investments. I appreciate Mr. Mancuso's work with us and Tim and Randy on making these investments into the station, because while ridership may be down in the next year, it will go back up in the long term, and we will have an updated train station for our commuters to have once they start riding the train again safely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public who'd like to comment on this ordinance? Seeing none, is any other comments from the Township Committee?
No.
Madam Clerk, can we take a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grizel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. Whoops, wait a second. I misplaced the paper. I, Catherine Wilson, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed. Approve the same. Direct the clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Thank you. And next up, Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor. Next up is ordinance 11-20, an ordinance appropriating $666,500 available in the General Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris.
I'll offer it.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment? Seeing none, I will ask Madam Clerk if you could take a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grizel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Next, ordinance
Wait,
12.
hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. You say
I, Catherine Wilson, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk publish the proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Thank you. Next.
Next, ordinance 12-20, an ordinance appropriating the aggregate amount of $1,220,000 to provide for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris.
I'll offer the ordinance.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to comment? Is there anyone from the Township Committee who would like to comment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you could please take a roll call.
Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grizel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. I, Catherine Wilson, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and approve the same and direct that the clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Thank you. Next ordinance, Mr. Carlson.
Ordinance 13-20, it's a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris, appropriating the aggregate amount of $2,665,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,531,750 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof.
I'll
Thank
offer
you.
the ordinance.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who has any questions or comments?
Oh, we got one. Yes.
Okay.
We do have one.
Yeah, I clicked on it. Mr. O'Reilly, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep. Question or comment?
Question, what interest rate are we getting on these bonds?
Mr. Quinn would know the answer to that.
The net is just below 2% with a premium.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public? Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grizel,
Yes.
and Mayor Wilson.
Yes. I, Catherine Wilson, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct the clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Thank you, and I believe this is our final ordinance, 1420.
Thank you, Mayor. The final ordinance is 14-20, an ordinance appropriating $3,360,000 available in the Sewer Utility Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various wastewater treatment plant and sewer system improvements by the Township of Morris.
Thank you. Someone move.
I'll move it, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Is there anyone from the public who has any questions or comments?
Yes.
I clicked on it.
She's on.
Heidi, can you hear? Are you there?
I can.
Okay, go ahead.
So does such an allotment of money handle a redevelopment piece of property, or is any kind of stress onto the stormwater or wastewater system from such a development? Would that be on top of this allotment of money? I guess that's my question. Is this like just for regular maintenance, repairs, and upkeep?
That is correct.
So any
Can you
kind
comment on the specifics of what this is for, Mr. Quinn?
Certainly, I'd be happy to, Mayor. This is for the upkeep of the sewer plants, the infrastructure of the sewer lines, and the pump stations. We have 2 sewer plants. They are very expensive to operate. We keep on updating them. So we take all things as we go. It's paid by user fees, not by taxpayer dollars or by developers. This is all paid by user fees that we have put in place over the years. And it also goes in to make sure that all of our wastewater treatment plants are operating efficiently.
So this is general maintenance and not related to any particular,
Okay, so
project.
it cannot be used to treat additional water that would be flowing into the system from a newly developed commercial piece of property?
They would have to pay connection fees and tie into the system and then pay their user fees.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Again, Mayor,
Yes.
just to make clear to the public, just as with the parking utility, the sewer utility is an independent utility separate from the regular municipal budget. And as Mr. Quinn said, people pay user fees. So all of us who are on the sewer system, there are some people in Morris Township on septic systems, but those on sewer systems pay twice a year a sewer fee. And we have been collecting money to do these infrastructure improvements. And just as Mr. Jorpy stated, that the ongoing infrastructure improvements at the parking lots are required. These ongoing infrastructure improvements for the sewer plants and our pump stations and the sewer lines are all required to keep our infrastructure operating as it should. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the Township Committee have any other comments? Okay. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Arvanites.
Yes.
Mr. Jarfi.
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso.
Yes.
Mr. Grizel.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. I, Catherine Wilson, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct the clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Thank you. Next, Mr. Quinn, the bid report, please.
Yes, Mayor, thank you very much. This is our annual drainage curb and sidewalk improvements. We do this every year. It's called general services. This is to put in curbing, put in drainage, fix sidewalks throughout the township. Earlier, we put out bid packages for this. 19 bid packages were picked up. And on the morning of May the 13th, we accepted the sealed bids. 8 bids were received. They ranged in cost from $685,709 to $993,890. The engineering office and our qualified purchase agent are recommending to the Township Committee that the lowest responsible bidder is Nava Construction of North Brunswick, New Jersey, and award the contract for this project in the amount of $685,709. For your consideration is Resolution 107-20 awarding this contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you just comment a little further on what the these improvements are?
Certainly. The improvements in this is curbing and road work done on Rainy Hill Road, curbing on Harwich Road, drainage on Winmore Drive, drainage on Bob Egan Drive, curbing on Brayburn, inlets on Bromley and Jardine, Harder Road drainage, Collinsville Firehouse drainage, Gregory Avenue drainage, pump station lots are going to be repaved, sidewalk repairs throughout the township. Those are like Balkan slabs and that kind of thing. And inlet repair on Old Glen Road, drainage on Hawthorne are the projects that are in this bid.
Thank you. Moving on to resolutions. Can I have a motion? Is there anyone who wants to pull any particular resolutions for discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to separate. I'd move that we vote separately on resolution 97-20 and 99-20 pertaining to the fire department, and proceed to vote on the rest en bloc.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve resolutions 91-20 through 96-20, comma, 98-20, comma, and 100-20 through 109-20.
I would offer the resolutions.
Second.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Grizel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
And I would offer resolutions 97-20 and 99-20.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Jarfi,
Abstain.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grizel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
99-20.
Okay. General business correspondence
As circulated.
as circulated. That is all in favor, correct?
Yes.
I'll
All in
move,
favor?
I'll move that, yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to standing committee reports. We'll combine our standing committee reports and township committee comments this evening. So I guess we'll go like we did last time, alphabetically. Mr. Arvanites, could you
Thank you,
begin?
Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to state with regard to our pools that we are still waiting for guidance from the governor as to how to proceed and if we actually will reopen the pools or not, and if we are going to reopen them, how we will reopen them. We're in the process, though, of conducting all of the maintenance that needs to be done on the pools and all of their systems in order to be ready, but also there are some improvements and or maintenance issues that have to take place whether we open or not. So all of that is being done at the present time, and once we receive guidance, hopefully within the next week, we will then let our residents know how we will proceed with the pools this summer. I'd like to just wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend and a special thanks for all of those that served and that we will be memorializing on Monday. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Arvanites. And agreed on the importance of receiving the guidance on the pools. That's expected any day.
Yes.
So it'll be very welcome to receive it. Thank you. Mr. Jorfi?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few brief standing committee reports, and I'll follow up with some remarks. But as stated, for the Communications Standing Committee that I chair with you, Mayor, the last month's, as I stated last month's meeting, we've really been focusing on working with our key professional staff in Town Hall on providing the most up-to-date COVID information for our residents. We had a very busy months of April and March. May, we are starting to transition to providing information on reopening, whether it comes to our parks. Folks may know that our tennis courts are now open with restrictions. So we're really trying to provide as much information to our residents as possible as we transition to whatever our new normal is for this summer. So if you haven't seen any of those updates, please go to our website. We have a COVID page dedicated with all of our messaging and resources. Sign up for the Municipal Messenger as always, or check our Facebook page where all of that information also lives. And I'd also just like to say I appreciate all the feedback we've gotten from our residents who live near the Abbey. I know for the mayor and I expanding or working on that 200-foot requirement for notification has been an initiative for both of us, and I'm sure for other members of the committee, and we are always looking for new ways to improve our communications efforts. It's been a huge priority for us. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to reach out to any of us or email me. We're always looking for new ways to try to make sure people are getting the information they need in a timely manner. For infrastructure, thank you, Diane Holland, for bringing up the question about the parking utility. Me and Peter Mancuso walked through the train station last fall and saw areas where it did need renovation in the waiting rooms, the restrooms, and some other cosmetic changes. And some of the work that some of the funds that we just approved for tonight are definitely essential in terms of drainage, and being able to do all this work now without having to inconvenience so many commuters is, I think, is actually really good timing for this. I think it's it's really a testament to our dedication to the station, and I think it's a priority for everyone. It speaks volumes. I think whether it's our state or federal government too, now is the time to start working to improve our infrastructure while they have the ability to make improvements and investments without disrupting commuters. Now's the time to get work done fast and allow folks to get back to work when they are without any hiccups. So I appreciate the Township Committee's support on that funding. For the Legislative Grants and Government Liaison Committee, residents will notice tonight in the resolutions that we postponed the implementation of our single-use plastic bag ordinance that the Standing Committee worked in concert with the Environmental Commission on. As we continue to live with the impacts of COVID, we are following the lead from other cities and municipalities to postpone this new policy as health experts caution the use of reusable bags for the time being. While this is a step backwards, I'm optimistic that we'd be able to proceed with a new implementation date this fall. I'd also like to thank our fire and police departments for taking the lead recently in applying for federal grants seeking funding for personal protective equipment as part of the COVID response. Since joining the committee, grant funding has been a particular priority for us, and we are delighted that our departments continue to work hard on applications to supplement our own funding. Additionally, I'm pleased that the Township enrolled in services from a local grant writing firm to notify our departments of potential grant opportunities. And then lastly, as Committeeman Arvanites noted, Monday is Memorial Day. We have while our extended weekends may feel a little different this year than in years past, I ask that we still take the time on Monday to reflect on the lives lost since the founding of our nation to protect our freedom and provide for our way of life. We may be memorializing in a different way this year, and many of you may be staying at home. Please keep our veterans and their families in your minds as you enjoy an extra day off. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you for everyone who joined the Zoom call tonight. I will yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Jorfi. And I would like to add one thing to what you said about the 200-foot letter notices. Mr. Jorfi and I have submitted a resolution to the League of Municipalities, which would actually call for an amendment to the municipal land use law, in that the MLUL currently requires applicants to postmark their 200 feet letters 10 days in advance. Our resolution would increase that to 21 days. And so it's with the league right now, it's gotten a little bit on the back burner with all that's going on, but we're proud of putting that legislation forward because it would really help, we think. So thank you, Mr. Jorfi, for all that you're doing. And who's next? Mr. Mancuso.
Thank you very much, Mayor. One sad note, I'm not sure if everybody has seen it because of all the notices, but Sister Fran Raftree, who was the president of St. Elizabeth's College for the 18 years I served on the board there, died about a week and a half ago. We are hopefully going to have a presentation to or for her later on in the year, possibly when we get back to regular meetings. So it's a very, very sad thing. Mention, excuse me.
Nothing. Keep going.
Go ahead. I'm
All
not
right.
sure what happened there.
All right, Mark mentioned that we had a grant for $2,460 coming from, it's a grant that has providing body armor for our police people. Resolution 10520, we supporting the freeholders, asking the state to go after direct stabilization funding to Morris County. The federal government passed $3.4 billion in help for communities around the country. And beside the freeholders asking them, there's a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate to try to get some of those funds allocated to Morris County. The very, very happy news, and it's not great news, but it's better news. There's only 7 new cases of the COVID-19 this week, and our numbers are basically flattening out and going lower. Again, happy Memorial Day. I always think when I had to speak about this, about the 1.2 million people, men, women, who have been killed during the services serving our country over the years. So I just think, Mark's comments were very, very, very well taken and spoken about. And finally, passed ordinance number 1020, improving the parking lot and the transportation at Convent Station. Mark mentioned those. It was a very important thing. They're going to be tiling the floor, putting new benches in, and taking down a dilapidated and old and building filled with asbestos. And thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mancuso. Deputy Mayor Grayzel.
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to start off by acknowledging the hard work of our administrator, Tim Quinn, who has kept our municipality running very smoothly through these tough times. So thank you, Tim. I want to apologize to the public for the glitches we've had with the Zoom technicalities here. We've run a number of other meetings. I've been part of 2 planning board meetings. We've had 2 board of adjustment meetings that have run very smoothly with presentations of documents and such. So I apologize for the difficulties we had tonight. As for my committee reports, the engineering committee, I want to report that the repaving of Washington Valley Road has been completed. That was a 2-mile stretch completed at a cost of $650,000, though I think the final estimate came in a little bit under that. Next up is going to be a road reconstruction of Beechwood and Catalpa roads, that neighborhood. That package is almost ready to go out to bid, so we'll be getting in bids, and we'll have a bid report and a selection, and hopefully that project will be completed later this year. Rayner Road is currently being surveyed, and we survey the roads so that we can put together that bid package. We know all the meets and bounds of the roadway project and what needs to be done. So Rayner Road is being surveyed now, and that's going to be next in the hopper for roadway improvements. And we put in the budget this year that we are going to start work on Sherman Avenue. So that project's going to come after Rayner Road is done. As for the Shared Services Standing Committee, I mentioned last month that the 4 towns of Morris Township, Morristown, Morris Plains, Madison have come together to discuss ideas on sharing services. And last month, we had our project approved by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. We are first going to look at delivery of DPW services and compare the efficiency at which each of the 4 municipalities does this. And we had a follow-up phone call about 10 days ago where we all agreed that we'd have our data in by the end of May. So very happy to report that that is proceeding, and all municipalities are agreeing to have their data to DCA by the end of the month. As for the municipal court, it's reopened virtually with some online hearings, but as with so many other things, we're awaiting guidance from the governor about how we can get more, how we can start in-person hearings, but we've started some online hearings there. For my personal remarks, I again want to thank all of our frontline healthcare workers battling coronavirus. Many of them, you read, are so exhausted, both mentally and physically, from those first 6-8 weeks they've had. So just again, another shout out to all of them who have supported our community. Right behind them are the local first responders that include the police department, fire department, Office of Emergency Management, the Minutemen Ambulance Services. My thanks to all of these people for being on the job and keeping our safety net secure in Morris Township and in the community. I want to add to the remarks Mr. Jorfi just made regarding communications with the residents in the neighborhood surrounding the Abbey property. Communications is a two-way street. The Township Committee recognizes that. And for those of you who have signed up with the Municipal Messenger, you will see a greatly increased volume of communications coming from the township over the past year. Mark and Kathy are on our communications committee and have worked really hard on increasing communications to our residents. So again, if you are not on the Municipal Messenger, I urge you to go to the municipal website and sign up for that. But again, communication is a two-way street, and getting resident input and hearing resident concerns is very important to us, and we are going to make sure that that happens. We make that promise to the community. We understand the two-way communications, and we want to see that happen. Next, it is vitally important during this very unusual time for all of us to take care of ourselves, both physically and mentally. Keeping physically healthy means getting exercise and fresh air. So I urge people to get outside in their neighborhoods while still practicing social distancing, of course. The county parks are now open again, thankfully. Municipal parks are open, including our tennis courts this week. So please get out there for a bike or a walk in our parks, or get some tennis in. But mental health is the other component of staying healthy, and May happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month. So as residents continue to deal with COVID-19, with many workplaces and all the schools closed, many of us stuck at home, and far, far too many of our neighbors losing their jobs, anxiety continues to rise. And so if you're having any kind of issue, I urge you not to go it alone. And New Jersey's feeling the emotional and mental toll of COVID or anything else, unemployment, can call 866-202-HELP. And I'll repeat that, it's 866-202-4357, and it's a free and confidential phone line. Please take care of yourself, both physically and mentally. If you're having any kind of issues, please take care of yourself. The hospitals are safe to go to now. Please go to the hospitals, get those surgery or personal care done that you need to have done. Take care of yourself mentally, and we'll get through this together. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I say one more thing which I forgot?
Sure.
I was just talking about the Abbey. I wanted to just reiterate what was said and what I said before. This is it's a vital and important project which affects many families in our township and especially in that neighborhood, and will not disenfranchise township residents by holding any virtual meetings. You have my word on that. I may not be able to stop it, but I'll do everything I can to prevent it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I thank my colleagues for making so many really good comments, many of which I was going to make myself. So some of my remarks will be a bit repeating. On the standing committees, the two that I wanted to mention, I serve on the Transportation and Circulation Standing Committee and the Energy, Environment, and Sustainability Standing Committee. Both the TAC, Transportation Advisory Committee, and the Environmental Commission have both not been meeting in light of all that's going on. In fact, none of our boards and commissions have met since the since we've been in the COVID situation. We are slowly looking to open our boards and committees back up, and the Transportation Advisory Committee and the Environmental Commission will be among our first two. We do expect them to meet remotely in June. TAC will meet on June 10th and the Environmental Commission on June 11th. That is our plan. And as Mr. Jorfi pointed out, the plastic bag ban that was passed last year, and it was supposed to be to go into effect July 1st. We have postponed the implementation of that until October 1st, and that should give our Environmental Commission more time to reach out and communicate with our small businesses. On my township committee comments, I did want to add a couple of thoughts about Memorial Day. It's such an important occasion for paying tribute to the men and women who gave their lives in service to our country. And it does make me sad that we're not going to be able to pay tribute in the ways that we usually do. And I also encourage people to set aside time on Monday to kind of reflect on the meaning of the day and to honor the memory of the veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice on our behalf. I also want to, there are so many people in our community. Our community has really stepped up to what's going on with the COVID situation. There's so many people who deserve special thanks for their just truly exceptional work. This week is EMS week. Special thanks to the Morris Minutemen and to the EMTs from our police and fire department for all the work they do on the front line. We also just recently, last week, May 6th to 12th, it was Nurses Week, another group that's very deserving of our special thanks, and all of our healthcare workers who really are on the front line of all that's going on. May 4th to May 8th was Teachers Week. Special appreciation to our teachers who are doing exceptional service always, but especially now with the virtual learning. It's quite challenging. I was a teacher myself for decades, and this is a challenging situation. I'd also like to extend special thanks to our DPW and sewer and parks workers who are not often recognized as frontline workers, but indeed they are. And we really appreciate their vital service to our community always, and especially now. Special thanks also to Mr. Quinn, who does work around the clock to make sure that everything runs smoothly in our community. I think things are going really well, and a lot of it is due to his extraordinary work. I'd also like to thank, there's many employees from several departments who are in the office and working from home. working very hard to ensure that the residents continue to get the services they expect. There have also been many residents who have made donations, both financial and supplies, masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, cleaning supplies. I don't have the long list in front of me, but I do want to thank all of the residents who have made so many needed contributions. I'd also like to thank the Ladies Auxiliary of Hillside, who's done a lot of work with making masks. The masks they've made are fantastic, and I got a gift of one, which I really appreciate. It's the best mask I have. It breathes really well, much better than the other one. So I do.
There, I have mine right here that I got this weekend from the Ladies Auxiliary.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Thank you.
It's terrific. I also wanted to just highlight the food drive that happened that we conducted in Morris Township on May 9th. It was really incredible. Lots and lots of residents came out, brought food in their cars. We collected over 13,000 pounds of food and over $1,000 in donations. The proceeds were sent to the Interfaith Food Pantry. I'd like to say special thanks to Melissa Spiota, who came up with the idea, and then she did a great job along with Heather Glockovich and Gianna Del Col of getting the word out on Facebook. I'd also like to thank all the people who volunteered from the fire department, the police department, and OEM and admin for helping the day of, and then delivering the food to the food pantry. It was really quite incredible. We needed a moving van to transport all the food. So thank you to the Chatham Moving and Storage for making that truck available. And that was courtesy of John Sacco, whose family, I guess, owns that. And we appreciated that. And thank you to our community for your generosity. And it'll be used to help many people who are suffering during this time. I also wanted to just, a couple of quick shout outs. I've gotten a lot of positive comments about the Zoom yoga and Zumba. It's a great creative offering. It's appreciated by many. Thank you to our Parks Department for offering that. I'd also like to highlight there was an effort to give out care packages of masks and gloves to seniors. 400 packages were given out. They were greatly appreciated. I know Mr. Quinn was involved in that, and I'm not 100% sure exactly who else was, but I know that it was greatly appreciated by the residents, and I believe another package is being planned. I also wanted to just say a word of thanks to Sue Young and Pat Safner for being the newly appointed members of the Historic Preservation Commission. We allowed 2 extra positions per an ordinance we passed, I think maybe 2 months ago, and we now have 2 people to fill those positions. And kudos to the HPC for the progress you're making on the work you're doing. I also wanted to, many residents say, what can I do to help? One suggestion I have is you might consider arranging to buy lunch for a group of our employees. If you are interested in doing that, you can call Jen Mantic, who is Tim Quinn's assistant, for details. That's at the main office number, 973-326-7360. And I think it's a win-win for our employees, and also it helps our local restaurants as well. I did want to also highlight our website. Virginia Murphy's doing a really good job keeping our website updated with COVID materials. As Mr. Grazel was saying, I share the concern with mental health issues this is a very stressful time. I know there are a lot of people experiencing a lot of anxiety and stress, and I will say that our website is filled with a lot of really good resources that are worth checking out, and we will be updating that on a regular basis. So please be sure to look there. I'd also like to highlight that Mr. Jorfi made a connection, and we now have a section on our website of small business resources for issues related to COVID concerns. A quick reminder to everyone, please fill out your census. And finally, I would like to thank all the residents who have reached out to the Township Committee and are actively following what's going on with the Abbey. I commend your engagement and involvement and the goals that are important to me. It's very important to me that the public is fully informed and understands what's going on. By working through this process together, we can accomplish outcomes. The goal here is to accomplish outcomes that serve the best interest of our community. And I, like others have said, I encourage you to share any suggestions you may have regarding what we can do to improve communication with the public. And it is one final plea. It is essential. I really encourage residents to sign up for the municipal messenger. You can go to the front page of our website, scroll down to the bottom, and there's a link right there. Just click on it, and you can easily sign up to receive the municipal messenger. So with that, I guess I will open it up, our final public commentary inquiry period. Is there anyone from the public who would like to ask any questions or make any comments? Seeing none, do we need a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consideration of monthly reports. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And claims for payment are bills to be paid in the amount of $13,065,273.81.
I move.
I believe we need a roll call for that, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, first
ahead,
we
Peter.
need to move it and then a second.
Right.
Okay, so Mr. Grazel is moving it.
Second, Peter.
Peter seconding it. Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Arvanites.
Yes.
Mr. Jorfi.
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso.
Yes.
Mr. Grizel.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes,
Motion to adjourn, Madam Mayor.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And on the agenda, our next meeting is, I believe, June 17th. It says June 3rd at the bottom. I believe our next regular Township Committee meeting is June 17th.
That's correct.
So, okay, thank you. So we will look forward to seeing everyone then. Thank you and have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.